All right, mates, welcome back to the channel. Hope everybody's doing well this morning, heading in to the weekend. Had a bunch of messages, getting back, going through all those this morning. But I wanted to give a shout out to some mates on YouTube and on TikTok. Check out Billy Lawson's Your Lake Fork Guide and Craig Johnson on TikTok. Okay, these are two individuals that don't hold anything back, like in terms of, and also Gary on innovative angling. Check out Gary's videos on everything that's happening right now in the fishing community, okay? From live scope, issues with live scope and how it's changing for the good or for the bad, depending on where your perspective is at in terms of the fishing community. Billy's got a great video up. It is entitled, How Much Lies, Deception, and Cheating is Actually in the Bass Fishing Community. And I know a lot of people focus on individual anglers. We know what's happened with MLF, Jeff Sprague. We know what has happened in that regard, what has kind of spurned some conversations, even carry over into the kayak community. Check out Christine Fisher Fishing on Facebook. I think it was on that. It might have been on her personal page, but she also talks about some of the criticisms that's now being levied in the kayak community in terms of information, right? Communication between anglers that travel together. Communication between, just friends that are on the tournament trails together. And ultimately, we're never going to be able to stop that. I mean, it's human nature for us to be social and to communicate with one another. There are things, obviously, that need to be mitigated to level the playing field, obviously, and most attempts, are fair, but there are also things that just don't make any sense, anymore. And the fishing community is evolving, right? We've seen this with the technological innovations, but our rules really haven't evolved with all that. I mean, think about this. 25 years ago, you did not have anglers with GoPros on their boats, right? You did not have every kayak angler and his brother with a YouTube channel, okay? That's, and it's like in some of these videos that you see, and it makes things precarious for content, right? Like if you're a tournament angler and you want to provide content, but you don't also want to spill any juice. And a lot of it doesn't have to do with because you're a bad guy and you don't want to share your spots with people. It has also to do with who's going to be watching that information and whether or not you potentially could get sucked into something that you have no idea of what's going on, right? Because you're putting videos out there listing GPS waypoints for people or telling people where bass are or whatever. Then people have a conversation about what you said. It goes to a tournament angler and suddenly your name is mixed up all in the mess. I mean, you're completely innocent in it, but your name still gets dropped with, text messages or Facebook messages, or someone sends your video to an angler, and then you get kind of caught up in it and you're completely innocent. And so there's all that. And so a lot of the stuff that's happening right now in the fishing community, the fishing community just hasn't, it's like in the boat, they have kept up with technology. Good or bad, depending on where you come down on that, okay? Outside the boat, they're still decades behind, okay? It's one thing, you have to recognize that times, it's not the 1985 or 1995 anymore. Like, that people now are just communicating through social media. Like, it's so easy now. It wasn't 25 years ago, okay? 30, 40 years ago, nobody had cell phones, right? On their boat that they were like talking to another angler while they're actually in a competition. That stuff goes on, okay? It does go on. It may not go on at the MLF and Bass Elite with cameras in the boat level, but it certainly goes on at other levels where anglers are talking to each other during the day. And it absolutely goes on in kayak fishing. Don't let anybody kid you, okay? But the thing that's unique about Craig Johnson and unique about Billy Lawson is, they're out there. And I try to do the same thing. because I try to be objective about it, like third party, independent, not on that trail, not obviously not in the Bass Elite Series, unfortunately, not in the MLF upper tier, like, and so providing commentary from an opinion-based perspective like everybody else, not in KFL, for example, trying to be an independent arbiter of what the storylines are, right? We need more people like that in the community. Now, I will push back against the people who constantly are like, you're not in the community, you're not in the trail, you're not on the league, you're not in this, you should STFU, you should just shut the up, right? Like, okay. Anyone who says that to you, anyone on social media, on their own like pages, YouTube channels, live streams, anyone who says that to you are the very people that are actually a detriment to the fishing community. Okay? Because they don't understand really the basic premise of a community. Okay? Is your community just competitive anglers? Okay, that's a small community. You're not going to grow that. Why? There's only a certain number of slots that can get into Bass Elite Series. A certain number of slots that can get into MLF, right? It's very limited in the kayak world. Unless they raise it, and I know in my part of the country they can't, because there's already provisions and pushback that are making their way up through, that you can't have more than 200 kayak anglers at an event. Okay? So you're limited, right? You wish to go to 250 or 300, but you're limited. So it's a limited number of people, okay? And if your community is just for those competitive anglers, how do you grow that? Someone has to leave your trail in order for you to plug in someone new, right? It's not a growth story. How you grow, how the fishing community has grown is 99% of the people out there that fish will never, ever compete in a single boater or kayak event. Ever. Ever. Okay? The industry is not for the tournament angler. Okay? The tournament angler is for the industry, to promote the industry. Mates, people just need to come to the realization of that fact. That's the business model. The business model is, if you do something detrimental to sponsors or detrimental to the image, the projected image of sponsors that are sponsoring a trail, when you cheat or when you lie or when you deceive, that's when it rises to the level of you getting banned or you getting removed or DQ'd or whatever, right? Other than that, right? Why are so many professionals, and I'm going to say this, because there are a lot of people out there that call themselves professionals, and they're not, okay? They're not. It's just ego-fulfilling prophecy of whatever they got missing inside that they need to fill up, okay? Because most professionals don't drop down in the social media gutter, okay, and banter back and forth, and they don't, because they understand that it's not just about fishing. Whenever somebody tells you that, typically they're hiding something, okay? So, it's just about fishing. It should only be about fishing. Now, you're making it more about, we've all made it more than just fishing. Professional anglers have other obligations, even more so obligations off the water now in 2022 than they ever have, okay? They have other financial commitments. They have endorsements. They have sponsorships. They have everything. Even our college anglers now have name, image, and likeness commitments, okay? It is so much more than just fishing. And anyone who thinks it's just fishing is completely naive as to what is actually happening. And Billy and Craig do a really great job in terms of that respect. There are entities in the kayak fishing, Kayak Bass Nation, for example, other channels. I know I've kind of like covered some things. You know, there are people out there that are willing to take on, you know, issues, right, that need to be discussed inside the within the community, right? And when people attack people personally, okay, they just, It's just, that's how you know. That's how you know that, look, they got something to hide, okay? They got something to hide, all right? They're not being transparent. That's where the deception comes in, okay? You've seen that. MLF did not try to cover up. MNF was very outspoken about what happened with Jeff Sprague in terms of everything that happened to that. They move, and you basically digest it, and you move on. You're transparent. This is what we had. You release it. Boom. Not all organizations are like that. Okay, you have that issue right now. Okay, we know about, like, when people talk about, like, just shut up, just go away. Why are you talking about that? No one cares. No one cares. Well, here's the deal. Everybody cares. Okay, it's the truth. Now, they may not care publicly because they have vested interest. It's like everything else in our society, whether it's Russia Gate, whether it's Sprague, whether it's KFL Gate, whether it's any of these things. They're stories. They don't go away just because the organizations or the protagonists and the antagonists want it to go away. That's not how we work in our society. It goes away when you address the situation, you're transparent, and you're not perceived as lying or deceiving people, okay? And people just don't know. That's why. It begets more questions. And when you don't answer questions, okay, about your rules, transparency, any of these things, you lose your credibility, and it just keeps piling on, and people aren't going to STF you, okay? They're not going to shut up. They're not, okay? And it doesn't matter whether or not they're in the Bass Elite Tour, the MLF Pro Tour. Doesn't matter whether or not they've ever fished a tournament before in their life. That's not how things work. Sorry. I'm sure that they wish that it did, that they could live in a bubble and in a bubble and not have anybody ever criticize them. But the very people who complain about people criticizing them are the very people who every single time and every single chance they get will criticize somebody else or another organization. We have seen that in kayak fishing for years. For years. People didn't like the way KBF did things. So some people went off and formed their own trail series and their own things, right? Okay? Or they formed their own local series, or they formed their whatever series, or they formed their own league, or they did whatever within kayak to fill spaces in kayak, the kayak fishing community, fill those voids with things. Well, once you do that, you put yourself on the front line to being open to being evaluated. Like, in terms of, okay, you said all these things about this entity, and you went off and created your own entity, but you don't want to be held accountable. Okay? You don't even want to follow your own rules. Right? And that's why you have KFL Gate now in the kayak side, because they didn't follow their own rules. They had rules that they didn't even know they had. Right? I mean, and then they make decisions not based within the rules. MLF has rules that they applied, okay, to the Jeff Sprague incident. Like, boom, this is our rule. You violated the rule. Here's how you violated the rule. KFL never did that. Never did that in July when they banned the team from Texas. And I've taken a lot of heat from people, okay? Both on social media and people just hitting me up personally, via Messenger saying nasty shit, okay? It's fine. That stuff doesn't bother me because they just don't know the reality. It's like, why are you, you don't know me, okay? So you don't know my family, my background, my whatever, so you have no idea. So it's like, oh, well, you don't even live in Texas. Why do you care about the Bandits? Why do you care about whether Oklahoma, the Outlaws, got screwed or not? What do you care? You're not fishing in that league. You're not fishing in that whatever in Texas. You don't even know anybody. Oh, it's like, Bates, and these people are clowns, okay? And it's fine. I can be a clown. I mean, that's fine sometimes. I'm not perfect. Like, I've been wrong about things and I've been right about things. But here's the thing. If you want to prove somebody wrong, then just release the information and the communication. Be transparent. Hey, man, I watched your video or I saw you on a podcast and I just want to, provide you this information because it's just not right. Like, I tried to do that with someone who published an article on a website about what was happening. And I thought it was kind of absurd that the very people who were talking about the particular issue in question were actually participants within this organization and didn't reveal it. Like, they didn't mention in their article that, hey, they participate in the organization, right? Or they're an owner in the organization, or whatever. They totally left that out when they were providing commentary about the specific organization. I think that's disingenuous. I think that's deceptive reporting. Okay? I've never come on a single video and never promoted myself as being part of that organization or any organization or speaking for an organization or not. But when you attack people like Craig or Billy or me or Kayak Bass Nation or other people from asking questions about lies, deception, and cheating, okay? What does that say? It says you don't want to clean it up. That you're willing to accept it for some people, but not others. And that's the case that's obviously been proven, with KFL Gate. Like, it's okay. If that's what their organization stands for. They have rules for some and rules for others. They have proven that in their application of rules that they've used, and also rules they've ignored. They've got plenty of rules that they've ignored. They have a jersey rule, right? Where placement of all the logos have to be in a certain place. They've got a jersey rule. People aren't following it. They don't care. It's the right people not following it. It's not the wrong people. If it was the wrong people or the wrong team, there'd be an issue. Okay? Again, rules not equally being applied. Why do you have a rule if you're not going to enforce it? Get rid of the rule. Just drop the rule. Communication is a hard rule to enforce, right? But if you tell somebody that it's okay to fish a certain place, okay, and you give them the green light to go fish that it's not out of bounds, okay, it's not out of bounds, and then you turn around after something happens and then turn around and ban them or turn around and DQ them for fishing in a spot that you said it was okay to fish in, or you yourself have fished in, there's a credibility issue right there. I mean, again, reveal the communication. Be transparent in discovery of all the things that happen. People slaying me about, like, why do you have the Bandits here in the KFL, the Texans here? You're not from Texas, whatever. People don't know. My wife is an adjunct professor in Texas, okay, for a Texas university, okay? Again, people don't know these things because they don't need to know these things, right? But when you attack someone, you might want to come with a little bit of juice, like in terms of like reality. Like, okay, we have friends in Texas. My wife lived in Texas for years, okay? Like, okay, so like I may be on the East Coast, but that does not mean that I don't want to have someone's back who's right. Doesn't matter who they are. They don't have to be Jeff Sprague, okay? They can be just the average kayaker or the average bass angler. If he's right, then I'm gonna back him. I don't care who the man is. I don't care who the white collar is. I don't care who the commissioner is. Like, if they're right and you're wrong, they're right and you're wrong. And you're wrong until you can prove that you're right, that you have justification, and that you're not lying to people and deceiving people and tarnishing people's images in the fishing community. That's my truck with everything that's happened. It's one thing to DQ someone, okay? It's another thing to ban people, and then it's another thing to attack their credibility, integrity, and reputation in the fishing community as a means of justifying your decision. The rules are what justifies your decision. If someone lies, cheats, or deceives other anglers, if an organization lies, cheats, or deceives, like an organization doesn't pay out what it's supposed to pay out, well then, that's deceptive practices, right? We all know that. And you deserve to be called out for it. And you deserve to have to defend what you did, okay? Especially if you're a professional organization in the fishing community. Boater side, kayak side, you're taking money from people. You're out promoting that you're a professional organization. All of those things. You come under even greater scrutiny from people and the content side, just average people making observations, and then also the legal side, right? And so the lies, deception, and cheating is happening, but it's not just happening with individual anglers. It's actually happening with organizations as well that need to be addressed, and that's what I think Craig has done on TikTok with just addressing issues that are popping up. That's what I think Billy Lawson has done quite a bit and taken heat for. When your whole reality is not being guided by the dollar, meaning fear of losing the dollar, fear of missing out on a sponsor, if you're not, then you have the ability to be genuine in your criticisms and your observations in terms of lies, deception, and cheating. But if you refuse to say anything, right? There are plenty of people that have seen people fish with no PFDs and have never done anything. I know there are plenty of people that have seen and know of people who have launched from unauthorized ramps and have never said anything. And they don't want to say anything because they don't want to be that guy. They're scared of the reprisal of them reporting an angler. That angler may be a popular angler in the community who's breaking rules. Sometimes it takes independent people, independent bodies to be able to sit back and talk about everything that's happening in the fishing community. So big shout out to Craig and big shout out to Billy for being that in the bass community. I firmly believe that. Whether you agree with them or not, check their channels out, give them a go, give them a listen, and check it out. All right, mates.